I was 8 years old when I got into rabbits. My mom showed when she was a kid, and when I was old enough to care for animals, we decided to get some. My name is Michael Mageles. I'm ARBA Judge 984, and I'm from Bridgeton, Maine. My mom decided to revisit the rabbit hobby just because she loved it so much when she was a kid. She was in 4-H, FFA, and everything, and that was something that she wanted to see if I was interested in. So only my mom was involved with the rabbits. There's actually a funny story that my dad brought us to our first show in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and that is the last show he has been to. And he will never come back to another. When I was in school, sports. Absolutely love sports. I'm busy year-round. Fall, I was doing soccer. Winter, I was doing basketball. I snowboarded a lot. And then in the spring, I would play baseball. And then during the summertime, I would do baseball and golf a lot. Animals were not an option for us. Agriculture in general isn't really that big of a deal out in Maine, especially from an educational standpoint. Raising rabbits in Maine is kind of challenging, not from the actual maintenance and care aspect, but just being able to compete on a national level. Obviously, we're isolated way up in the top corner of the country, so we do have to travel for our shows and to see a lot of the bigger, more experienced breeders throughout the country that you'll see in the Midwest or West Coast and stuff like that. So from that aspect, it's a little more challenging, but if you love the hobby, you'll do what you have to have as much fun as you can. So growing up, I probably, my two very, very closest friends were probably the only ones that knew I actually had rabbits, or the seriousness that I had within the hobby. It probably wasn't until I got to college and started regularly going to national shows. And once I got my judge's license, I kind of really opened up about it. I didn't really admit to a lot of people that I had rabbits just because I didn't feel like it was something that was really important to know about me. And growing up, kids love to be mean, make fun of people for very, very simple, dumb reasons. And so I've always been someone that's kept to myself, and even to this day I like to keep to myself. And so I don't really like to overshare things. And like I said, I didn't really think it was that important to know about me back then. But now, it's taken over my life in a good way. And so it's something that I really cherish and want to tell people now. So I just turned 13 years old when I got my Registrars license. I just started the 8th grade, and so I did it at a local fair. At the time, I didn't really think I was too young for it. I felt that I was confident in my abilities. I feel like I knew a lot about rabbits. Obviously, not as much as I could know. But at the time, it was just the first step in becoming a judge, and I guess at a very young age, I wanted to be a judge, and so I just went for it. When I was getting into the hobby, I thought judges were superstars. No matter if they were young, old, good, bad, I thought they were all superstars. And growing up in northern Wisconsin, we have quite a long ways to drive to go to a lot of shows, and so being able to just talk to judges, it was a very, very cool and awe-inspiring experience for me. No, I don't think that you had to be a certain age to be a judge. From my experience, it was just the fact that I wanted to become one, and a lot of people told me that, hey, you'd be a good judge someday. But I don't even think that they expected me to try and shoot for that at such an early age. Absolutely encouraged to go for it, especially being out in Maine at that point. We have very few judges out in the New England states, And so seeing a younger person that's excited about the hobby, wants to take that hobby as far as they possibly can and try and do as much as they can, I was absolutely encouraged. But like I don't think that they expected me to actually do it right away. I was the only person that had that sort of interest. Our youth shows were quite small, especially up in the northern part of New England. I was actually showing in youth for about a year or two once I moved out to Maine, and then started showing all my rabbits in open just because there was very, very little competition, and I wanted to have a lot more fun with the hobby. It was a lot more fun showing against the adults. So being able to learn about the animals, I really credit growing up my first few years in Wisconsin to help me do that. Just knowing a lot of the open breeders, growing up in mini recs, there's fantastic mini recs breeders all around the country, and I was able to be introduced to a few judges that really helped me understand that rabbits just aren't, they're livestock. You have to judge them a certain way, you have to evaluate them a certain way, and it really helped me become a better breeder. And I think being a very good breeder is the first step of becoming a good judge. Being able to evaluate your own animals, being able to breed your own animals, I think that's a huge step. And then just taking the literature that the ARBA offers to us is always a necessary step in trying to learn as much as you can. So studying for my Registrars license, I took the test at the beginning of October at the Freiburg Fair, and for the month and a half leading up to that, I would have like a study hall period at school where I would just open up the Standard of Perfection and just read every single word that was in there. And that was all I did for studying, but it worked for me, and passed the first try. Yeah, my classmates did see me study that, and there was definitely some weird looks, but it is what it is. I think the biggest thing that I gained was actually just respect for my fellow breeders. They didn't just see some kid that was just doing this as a hobby, just doing it because maybe your parents wanted you to, and you're just along for the ride until you graduate high school and you go off to college. They saw me as a kid that was really excited in what he chose to do as a hobby. My mom got me into the hobby, but like I chose to roll with it, just to keep going, do as much as I can, and going for my Registrar's license was that next step. I'm always trying to further myself in this hobby because it's done so much for me. What would I say to someone going for the Registrar's license? I would just say go for it. The sooner you go for it, the better. The longer you wait, the more doubt will creep in your mind. Life will get in your way. If you have the opportunity to go for it, just go for it. Because that's what delayed me in going for my judge's license, was life started getting in the way. I wanted to get my license before I graduated high school, but just way too busy. It may not be for everyone, but if you truly love this hobby, love your animals, that it's absolutely something that you should consider. Maybe not at 13 years old. That's a little young, but like if you're in high school and you have the time for it and you truly love the hobby, then there's nothing that should stop you. So I am 23 years old now, and I was a registrar for almost 8 years before I got my judge's license. So now I'm Judge 984, and this license is absolutely everything that I could have dreamed of and even more. Coming up on 2 years in a few months, and I can't believe it's gone by that quick already. But I've been to some incredible places. I have some incredible stories to tell people. I've seen some fantastic animals, and it's a true blessing to be able to share this hobby with so many friends across the country, across the world, and be able to go home to my mom and brother and tell them all the stories and share it with them.